India, in fact, is very different than Canada because India really doesn't function like one country. It functions like Europe before the euro. It functions like 30 different countries with 30 different sales structures, 30 different tax structures, and different level types of customs that to kind of come into the country, and different types of interstate customs and so on. So the complexity of doing business in India is significantly greater than Canada or North America, for that matter. Canada's brand is very strong, and in fact, it's made stronger by the Canadian Council of Generals and the people on the ground. And I think that they're specifically worth mentioning because they add a lot of credibility to Canadian companies in those markets. They provide a lot of hand-holding, they provide leads, they provide introductions. So Canada's brand sort of generically is strong. How Canada fared through this last economic upheaval, the credit crisis, global credit crisis and so on, gave Canada a lot of credibility. So it's a very strong brand, in my opinion, in those markets. In fact, there are two types of reasons. First is the founders of this company grew up in Canada. So this is home base, and this is where we want to live, this is where we want to grow up our children and so on. But more importantly, Canada, because of its multicultural mosaic, provides sort of a mix of expertise that in fact, in reality, doesn't exist most around the world. The electronics manufacturing sectors have been decimated around the world. They've moved primarily to China. But in Canada, you get mold makers with experience in China. In Canada, you get from Eastern Europe software designers and others and so on. So this is a very interesting mix of recent immigrants over the last 10 years that bring a set of skills that we're going to have to figure out how to nurture and sustain in this market, but currently it gives Canada, I believe, a strategic advantage over many other countries. That skill set, with all due respect to India, doesn't exist there. And that skill set, for that matter, doesn't exist even in China. Spend time locally. The markets are unique enough that you can't remotely judge the requirements and the needs. And the requirements can be very uniquely different based on local criteria and so on. Sometimes regulatory criteria, sometimes cultural preferences, and so on. I give people an anecdote of the time I saw an ad for a minivan where the driver's seat lay down 180 degrees. And I thought, why would you ever need the driver's seat laying down 180 degrees? Except in India, most minivans are cabs, and these cabbies end up sleeping these things. So you need a driver's seat that lays down 180 degrees. Sitting here, we would never discover that as a need. So my recommendation would be spend time locally, even if it's for a vacation, and you'll discover things that they don't do as well, that require efficiencies that our Canadian experience can bring into that environment.